Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into a really fascinating corporate pivot. We're looking at Zeon, a chemical giant literally built on petroleum, and how it's trying to break its addiction to oil to engineer a completely new, sustainable future.
This is one of the toughest questions facing the entire industrial economy, right? If your company's success is completely tied to oil, how do you possibly survive in a world that's trying to move away from it? Today, we're using Zeon Corporation as a case study to see one potential and pretty ambitious answer.
All right, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll get into the core problem Zeon is up against. Then, we'll dive into their 5-gear strategy and the new tech that's driving it. We'll also check out whether their targets are for real, and finally, we'll ask the big question: what could this mean for everyone else? Okay, so let's start at the beginning. To really get the scale of this pivot, you first have to understand what Zeon has been doing and mastering for over 70 years. For decades, Zeon has basically been a master of chemical alchemy. They take these specific byproducts from oil refining. Chemists call them C4 and C5 fractions, and they magically transform them into materials that are all around us. We're talking about everything from the synthetic rubber in car tires to specialized plastics used in medical devices. And right there, that's the central conflict. Their entire, incredibly successful business model is completely dependent on fossil fuels. And in a world that's pushing hard for decarbonization and a circular economy, this isn't just a minor problem. It's a full-blown existential threat. So, how does a company like this even begin to respond? Well, Zeon's answer is a new strategic framework they call the 5 gears, a system designed to get every single part of the company moving together in a new, sustainable direction. Now, take a look at this diagram. It really shows their whole approach. In the center, you've got the 5 strategic pillars, or gears, things like innovation, sustainability, and corporate culture. The arrows show how these are all supposed to work together, turning in sync to drive the whole company toward that star in the corner, their massive goal of eternal prosperity for all. What's really clever here is how this is designed. You see that innovation, the light bulb, is the central gear. But it doesn't turn by itself. It's powered by the others, creating a great workplace for employees, having strong ethics, and contributing to a circular economy. Zeon's big idea is that these aren't separate goals. They're all parts of a single, interconnected machine. So, a grand strategy is one thing, but how do you actually invent the technology for a future without oil? For Zeon, the answer is a dedicated innovation engine called Zeon Next. This is huge. It's a total redefinition of who they are. Zeon is shifting from being a petrochemical company to a polymer design company. The insight here is that their real expertise isn't just in refining oil, it's in designing complex polymers. So the goal is to keep that core skill, but completely swap out the main ingredient, moving from fossil fuels to things like biomass. And this isn't just some theory on a PowerPoint slide. They are actively building new supply chains. They're investing in startups and building new facilities to create their key chemicals, like butadiene for tires, directly from things like plant-based ethanol. It's a whole new pathway from biomass to the high-performance products their customers need, including next-gen sustainable aviation fuel. I love this quote from their own strategy notes. It just perfectly captures the scale of what they're trying to do. They don't just see this as a business change, they see it as an evolutionary leap for the whole company, learning to thrive on a completely new source of energy. Okay, so an ambitious vision is great, but it's pretty meaningless without some real accountability. So let's look at the numbers and the rules Zeon has put in place to prove this is more than just a fancy marketing campaign. And that's exactly where the vision meets reality, right? It's all about the hard numbers. This slide basically lays out their public roadmap. You can see their key targets for the near term and for 2030. There are a lot of goals here, but let's just focus on the big ones for 2030. A 50% cut in their direct CO2 emissions, and a target for 50% of their total sales to come from products that directly support sustainability. These are serious, measurable commitments. And their idea of good governance goes way beyond just emissions. Zeon gets that true sustainability also means running an ethical operation and committing to human rights across their entire global supply chain. So they've put this systematic 5-step process into place. This is straight from their own reports to find and fix human rights risks, and not just in their own factories, but across all their companies and deep into their supply chain. It's a structured way to build a more ethical business from the ground up.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second. What does Xeon's attempted pivot mean, not just for them, but for the entire industrial world? So, the biggest takeaway here is just how complete this reinvention is meant to be. They're changing their raw materials from oil to renewables. They've built this interconnected gears strategy and a dedicated innovation engine to make it happen. And they're backing it all up with real targets and a commitment to ethical governance. It's a holistic approach, not just tinkering around the edges. And that leaves us with a fascinating final question. Xeon's journey is a massive test case. Whether they actually succeed or fail, what they're doing right now will provide either a critical blueprint or a serious cautionary tale for the rest of the industrial economy as it has to confront a post-petroleum world.